Austrian railway journeys. In this program, we visit Austria, traveling the full length of the country, from the wondrous city of Vienna on its borders with Eastern Europe, to Bregenz, a dreamy monastic town on the shores of Lake Constance, on the borders of Switzerland and Germany. Our journey will take us through 670 kilometers of one of Europe's most spectacularly scenic nations. We explore the streets of Salzburg and Innsbruck, taking a look at the many historic buildings. We'll look at cathedrals on the inside and admire the views on the outside. There will also be time for a glimpse of one of Austria's most famous institutions, the Spanish Riding School of Vienna. And we'll take to the air for stunning aerial views of the Alps as you've never seen them before. Dissolution of the Austrian-Hungarian monarchy at the end of the First World War, Austria became a republic. Then, following alliance to the Third Reich during the Second World War, Austria returned to being a republic from 1955. Austria has always maintained a strong individual approach to its own economic development. However, in recent years, her ties with the former Eastern Bloc, especially Hungary, have become more important. Today, Austria is very much a part of the West, and her 7.6 million inhabitants also now enjoy membership of the European community. We start our journey from Vienna, but before setting out across the country, we first take a look at Austria's capital. Vienna, once positioned at the country's eastern end, remains politically, economically and culturally the center of the nation. The city has a population of over 1.5 million and lies at the foothills of the northeastern Alps on the banks of the famous river Danube. Vienna's architecture is, in the main, the inheritance of many years of imperial rule. Despite sieges from the east, Vienna maintained its independence from the early 1700s and grew into a Baroque city of some considerable proportion. Having risen to be capital of the Holy Roman Empire, its growth and development has been unhalted. We'll take a look at the central area of the city, or Innenstadt, first, before spreading out to the so-called ring that skirts the center and which encompasses the main architectural features of the city. Getting about in Vienna couldn't be more straightforward, and the Vienna card of differing time lengths will provide the visitor with easy access to all systems. There are local trains that run out into the suburbs. There are street trams with clearly indicated route numbers. No better way to watch the world go by, admiring the old and the new side by side. Then there is the U-Bahn. These underground and overground metro lines are clean and run, like most transport in Austria, very efficiently. Route diagrams clearly mark selected destinations. Most center on the ring, mentioned earlier. It was Otto Wagner's plans at the turn of the century that laid out a very comprehensive system for the city. Here at Karlsbad Station, Wagner's original secession-style pavilion has been beautifully renovated. Situated along the southwestern side of the Innenstadt is the Hofburg, a complex of buildings in Renaissance and Baroque styles. The Neue Hofburg, the great south wing of the Hofburg, was designed by Hasenaar, Semper and others in lavish Baroque style. This building now houses part of the Museum of Art, amongst other exhibits. Standing outside in Heldensplatz, or Hero Square, is the Prince Eugene Monument. Opposite is the dramatic statue of Archduke Charles from 1847. One of the most impressive frontages within the Hofburg is that of the Mikala. A grand passageway leads under the centre of the building, with entrances to the palace, chapel, and treasuries. Also here are the state apartments. Across the ring from the Hofburg are the Natural History and Fine Arts Museums. These fine buildings flank Maria Theresienplatz in neo-Renaissance style, erected between 1872 and 1890. The Maria Theresa monument stands a proud 20 meters high and features the Empress on her throne. She ruled from 1740 to 1780, and her name will crop up again and again, associated with the great works of her time. A short walk from Maria Theresienplatz is the Rathaus, or Town Hall. This neo-Gothic pile, built between 1872 and 1883, has 7 courtyards and a 98-meter-high tower, surmounted by Rathausmann, a local landmark. When illuminated at night, the town hall shows off its wedding cake attributes to the full. Opposite the town hall is the Berg Theatre, founded by Maria Theresa in 1741. This late Renaissance-style structure took heavy damage during the last war and reopened its doors in 1955 as Vienna's leading theatre venue. The Parliament building is definitely one of the most impressive of Vienna's public buildings. Built in another style, this time Greek classical, between 1874 and 1883. Fronted by the spacious Rooseveltplatz are the massive spires of neo-Gothic Votivkirche. Built in light and limestone, the towers rise to 99 meters. Across the Danube Canal from the city centre is the Prater Park, a traditional funfair and amusement park. Here stands one of Vienna's most famous landmarks, the Prater Wheel. Built in 1897, it's one of the largest and oldest Ferris wheels in the world. It was constructed by English engineer Walter Bassett. The whole mechanism and all the cabins were destroyed during the last war, though quickly rebuilt by 1946. Today, thrills come in a somewhat less sedate form. This spinning ride takes its victims through a 360-degree gyroscopic experience. One of Vienna's greatest cultural gifts has been that of music, with the likes of Mozart, Beethoven and Schubert either being born or associated at some time in their lives with the city. In Stadtpark could be found a bronze statue of waltz king Johann Strauss the Younger. Think of Vienna, and you have to think of music, chandeliers, lavish ballrooms and swirling ball gowns. Even today, the fancy footwork of the Viennese can be found cutting the ice in their hundreds on a Sunday morning at the Eislaufverein. of a visit to Vienna, as long as you book 8 months in advance, is the chance to see the world-famous Lipizzana stallions at the Spanish Riding School and Museum. We caught up with the horses as they were put through a rigorous training routine in their display arena, which is part of the Hofburg. These are the younger stallions, identified by their darker coloured coats. When born, they are virtually black in colour. The school was founded in 1572. The stallions, formerly from Lipica in Yugoslavia, have since 1918 been bred at a stud in the Styrian village of Piba. It was Archduke Charles from the Habsburg family who chose to establish the school. And now we see the older, more mature members of this exclusive club. The choice of this breed was that it was found that it had all the qualities demanded of an ideal mount at that time. The horse's elegant movements and firm build added to the attraction. Their temperament made them ideal for training. The surroundings for the displays are as an ornate a setting as could be, as under the chandeliers they prance and trot to an age-old display formula. In Vienna, the old stands alongside the new. Whilst the centre could be described as a classic film set for yesteryear, one wonders what those architects would make of today's designs. Here, a power station, or could it be part of an amusement park? It certainly seems to have been built to catch the eye. The Danube flows through the central area of Vienna in the form of a canal. But the main river on the outskirts remains busy with international boat traffic and trade. Such trade routes have played an important part in the development of this famous city, which also calls itself a port. Open-air markets selling country produce need to be visited in the morning. Here you'll find out more about Austrian tastes, and maybe meet a few local characters.
Schinken, ham inside the bread. So, wie viel willst du? 105. Bitteschön, das Kind vom Burgerland, nur 20 Schilling, meine Damen und Herren. Wollen Sie 3 Schilling?
A worthwhile excursion is by U-Bahn out to Schönbrunn, where time can be taken to visit the famous Schönbrunn Palace. The original palace was devastated by the Turks in 1683 and rebuilt by 1700, being fully decorated for Maria Theresa by 1749. This dignified palace, with grand galleries and staterooms, is set in attractive parkland and flower gardens. It was also a favourite of Emperor Francis Joseph, who was born here and who died here in 1916. It is easy to imagine the atmosphere of some of the great state occasions that would have taken place here in the past. But now to the present, and no one can visit Vienna without taking time to sample the delights of a traditional Austrian konditorei. Cake shops are everywhere, Many are family businesses that go back through several generations. Delicious. As night falls, streetlights come on, commuters tackle their homeward journey, and Vienna takes on a different mantle. In the centre stands probably the finest Gothic building in Austria, St. Stephen's Cathedral. To the top of the spire is 137 metres. The cathedral also houses the Pummeran or boomer bell. Characteristic of the cathedral are the patterned glazed tiles that adorn the roof. The interior is 92 metres in length and has an organ with no less than 10,000 pipes. The structure dates back its origins to around 1300. Vienna has one of the world's most lavish shopping centres, and here tourists will find all the names associated with the most current trends and fashions. The shops stay open late, enticing tourists in to spend. Not to be forgotten, even after dark, are those chocolate shops. One of the most atmospheric of evening pursuits will be to take tram 38 to Grinzing, some 4 miles from the centre of Vienna. Grinzing is an old wine village, and the tram rumbles through the streets before terminating in an arched courtyard in the centre of the village. This is where the people of Vienna come to eat well, taste the best of wines, and enjoy an evening away from the bustle of Vienna's busy streets. Time to relax with an Eastern flavour to the music before our journey westwards across Austria begins in the morning. Our journey starts from Vienna's Westbahnhof. Facilities at railway stations are generally very good, and another enlightened approach by Austrian Railways is that at over 140 stations, bicycles can be hired. Our destination is Bregenz, and the train is being prepared in the platform for departure. Whilst the restaurant car crew prepare for their journey, our locomotive arrives from the depot and is attached to the front of the train. This 670-kilometre journey can use many of the international trains that pass through Austria. There are Austrian trains, German and Swiss services amongst others, and many services use combinations of carriages. This being a feature of the International Association of European Networks. Our first train on this journey is indicated as a Korridorzug. This means it will pass from Salzburg across German territory towards Innsbruck. This avoids a circuitous route within Austria itself. The train departs promptly, and the passengers and crew settle into one of Europe's great railway journeys. This journey will take in some of the most interesting of Austrian cities. Travelling westwards from Vienna, we will pass through St. Pölten, stopping at Linz on the banks of the River Danube. From here we head towards the eastern tip of the Alps and the fortress city of Salzburg. From Salzburg, we'll travel on towards Innsbruck, breaking our journey at Jenbach. Onwards again to the tourist centre of Innsbruck, for views of the Alps at their best. On through dramatic scenery on the Arlberg route, through Langen, before journey's end at the monastic town of Bregenz on the shores of Lake Constance. Linz first appeared in records as a Roman camp, and today is the capital of Upper Austria, being Austria's largest city after Vienna and Graz. Today the town is busy with industry and commerce, and its position on the River Danube has played an important part in that development. The original market square is surrounded by some handsome buildings. In the middle of the square stands the Trinity Column. This 20-metre high column of Untersberg marble was erected in 1723 in thanksgiving for the town's preservation from plague and Turkish attack. Such columns can be found in many Austrian centres. Also overlooking the square is the Church of St. Ignatius. Linz enjoys some superb pedestrian facilities, and as in other European cities, has adopted an enlightened approach by banning motor vehicles from its centre and enhancing its public transport systems. Along Landstrasse, further buildings are caught at their best when the sun shines. For us, the journey continues towards the fortress city of Salzburg. Salzburg, with a population of 140,000, is the capital of the province of the same name. As well as being one of Europe's most beautiful cities, Salzburg has the claim to fame of being Mozart's birthplace. The town occupies both banks of the river Salzach, which runs down from the mountains. Here in the old town, medieval streets and courtyards abound, and like Linz, the motorcar has, in the main, been banished. Getting about in the centre of Salzburg is easy, using their quiet and environmentally friendly trolleybus system. We visit two of the notable religious centres in the city. Firstly, the Franziskanerkirche, or Franciscan Church. This was the town's main parish church until 1635. Notable features are its high neo-Gothic helm roof, and the high altar dates from 1709. On one side of the Residenzplatz is the cathedral. The structure has twin towers, 79 metres high, and dates from 1652. The west front faces the Dornplatz and has four colossal statues in marble. The outer statues represent saints of the province. On the right is Virgil, and on the extreme left is St. Rupert. The inner statues are Peter and Paul. The frescoes in the vaulting are surrounded by rich stucco ornamentation and are by Mascagni. The cathedral can hold a congregation of 10,000. It was here that Mozart was baptized. The shops in the quiet back streets are a magnet to the thousands of tourists who flock here each year. One particular attraction of Salzburg, other than its fine architecture, is that it's also Mozart's birthplace. Number 9 Getreidegasse is the house where Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born on January the 27th, 1756. And where there are tourists, there is always someone ready to make money. Opposite this famous birthplace is none other than Mozartland, which, whilst not having Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, has just about everything else. And an enterprising musical instrument store has established itself in the same block. Whether or not the great virtuoso would have approved of the electric guitar, we will never know. What we do know is that Mozart is big in Salzburg. And here, an unusual store indeed. The celebration of Easter is nearing, and this shop is ready for the sale of thousands of hand-decorated eggs. Each egg has a unique design, and the display is stunning. Across the river Salzach is Kapuziner Cloister, a Capuchin friary, strategically placed to look down on the old town and its humbled inhabitants. Across the rooftops from here, and even higher still, is the Hohensalzburg fortress. This impressive situation dominates Salzburg, and from miles around is the most noticeable feature of the skyline. The climb to the fortress is a grueling one on foot. However, a funicular railway penetrates the high battlements to glide visitors 120 meters to the top. The castle is situated to the south of the old town, on the southeastern summit of the Monschberg. First built in 1077, this castle was strongly fortified in the 17th century, but was abandoned in 1861. Today, it's one of Salzburg's leading tourist attractions. Views from the fortress give a good idea of how the whole urban scene is dominated by the Hohensalzburg. It's a place to wander around at leisure, or maybe take a more detailed guided tour.
Eine große Mittelalter-Spektakel. Zeg das voort, zeg das voort.
Train journey continues towards the Alps themselves. Heading for the scenic Tyrol and Innsbruck, we'll break the journey at Jenbach. But for those really scenic views, we now take to the air over and into the magnificent Alps. Almost 2/3 of its total land area is taken up by the Austrian section of the Eastern Alps. The widest, flattest section of the topography being the Danube and Vienna basin. Up here, where few have ventured, there will be snow and ice all year round. Our train journey continues through the Inn Valley, and we take a break at Jenbach, not far from Innsbruck. Here there are two side trips worthy of mention, both of which venture out into the countryside on memorable excursions. Firstly, on the northern side of the station, there is the Aachen Seebahn. This is a meter-gauge cog railway that climbs into the mountains. Dark coniferous forests surround the area as the line travels up to the Tyrolean lake at Aachensee, 7 kilometers away. Two of its 3-rack engines date from 1889 and the third from 1905. The line's original coaches are still in use. The engines make a splendid sight as they roar into the hills. The lake at Aachensee is 9 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, and 133 meters deep. West and east rise the imposing peaks of the Karwendelgebirge and the Rothangebirge. The lake provides a water supply for the area. It also has a hydroelectric power station, which uses the steep 380-meter fall to the valley to raise power for the town of Jenbach below. On the other side of the station at Jenbach, one can join the steam-hauled tourist trains that run to Zillertal, and that terminate along the valley at Meyerhofen. This line is the famous Zillertalbahn, or Silver Valley Railway. The line runs a public service, as well as the tourist steam-hauled trains along the 4-kilometer track eastwards from Jenbach. The line was 100% steam-worked until 1960, when diesels were introduced. The local management fortunately realized the tourist potential of steam traction, and this has been wisely retained. Double heading is occasionally necessary on some summer tourist trains, such is the level of business. A journey along the valley should be a compulsory part of anyone's visit to this part of Austria. We now rejoin our train and head the short distance along the River Inn to Innsbruck, capital of the province of Tyrol, and one of Austria's best-known resorts. Innsbruck lies in the wide Inn Valley at the intersection of two important traffic routes between Germany and Italy and between Vienna and Switzerland. The railway yards bear testament to its importance as a hub for rail traffic in all directions. To the west lies Bregenz and Germany via the Arlberg route, and to the south the famous Brenner Pass into Italy. The River Inn passes through the heart of the town, with mountains rising majestically on all sides around the valley. Innsbruck's famous medieval core has been well preserved. The streets clear of service vehicles and delivery wagons in the early morning to leave room for pedestrians to amble their way around the cobbled streets. Traditional signs advertise the wares of local traders. Today's traders have had to adapt to local custom and tone down their presence with less of the bright and brash. Many of the buildings in this town are quite awe-inspiring in their decoration. Many are in late Gothic style. Most tourists head for the famous Golden Roof. This magnificent oriel window, roofed with gilded copper tiles, was built in 1494 to commemorate Maximilian I's marriage to Bianca Maria Sforza, and served as a box from which to observe civic festivities in the square below. Note too the decorations on the Golden Adler or Golden Eagle, one of the oldest inns in the town. The inn was built in the 16th century, and it was from its windows that a local Tyrolese patriot, Andreas Hofer, addressed the masses in 1809. At the southern end of the main street is a triumphal arch. This was erected by Maria Theresa in 1765 and depicts the marriage of her son, Leopold, later Leopold II, to Infanta Maria Ludovica. On the eastern side of the town can be found the Hofburg, containing the imperial castle, court church, and a complex of modern meeting houses. Innsbruck shops bristle with goodies for the tourist. The flavour here is very much typically Tyrolean. An excursion worthy of inclusion here is the tram route that runs from the south of the town up to Igls. It's a tortuous route for the trams, 5 kilometers into the mountains. Igls is a popular winter ski resort with a World Championship bobsleigh run and has many wonderful summer or winter walks. When the snow comes, the village will be alive with skiers from all over the world. Innsbruck and its surrounding majestic mountains is one of Austria's major ski resorts. Good transport systems make all the difference in a country like Austria with its mountainous terrain. Indeed, in bad weather, the tram might be the only way to reach the more inaccessible towns and villages. We now return down the hill to Innsbruck's town centre and make our way to the central railway station. As our train prepares to depart from Innsbruck, bound for Bregenz, we will join the driver in his cab for a forward view of the route from here to St. Anton as we head for the Arlberg Tunnel. Near Piaz, we cross the impressive Trizana Brücke Bridge. The route dives and twists through deep gorges and long tunnels as it heads up the valley. St. Anton, at 1,284 meters, is one of the oldest established winter ski resorts. Here in the Arlberg, we're at the watershed between the rivers Rhine and Danube. A natural pass exists, and it's here that our train enters the Arlberg Tunnel. The tunnel is over 10 kilometers long and opened in 1889. For travelers in either direction, the tunnel is the border between central and western Austria. A road tunnel at this point is no less than 14 kilometers long. The train emerges from the tunnel at Langen am Arlberg, a worthy contender for one of the world's coldest railway stations in midwinter. Here, we're at over 1,200 meters above sea level. As mentioned earlier, trains in Austria can consist of many different formations. This train is bound for Zurich and includes a Swiss panorama car. There is one other special train that might be seen on this route too. That is the world-famous Orient Express with its smart wagon-lit coaches which ply between France and Italy. Here, this private palace on wheels is seen leaving Innsbruck, being part way on its journey from the romantic Italian city of Venice, bound for Paris and London. This celebrated train has a rich history of its own, being the dramatic backbone to much mystery and suspense. The train slides discreetly through the landscape, heading for St. Anton and the Arlberg Tunnel. They start skiing early here, and the confidence the younger children show on the nursery slope is worthy of note. Despite this, though, only a few will make it to Olympic standards. Bregenz is journey's end for us. This is the capital of Vorarlberg province, at the foot of the Pfander mountain, and sitting on the shores of Lake Constance. From here, trains go further into Europe, to Germany and Switzerland. The border but a few minutes away up the line. This is a quiet, sleepy, monastic town, which, like many of the others we've seen, enjoys a traditional old town centre, with more modern precincts and suburbs. The upper town, or Oberstadt, was once fully fortified. The Celts and Romans settled here, and today, part of the 13th century walls remain. A tall, spired parish church overlooks the new lower town area. In the old walled town, the massive St. Martin's Tower, or Martinstrom, is one of Bregenz's landmarks. Down by the lake, chilled by winter fog, the birds scurry for food. No steamers on the lake at this time of year. Time maybe to wrap up warmly and take a swift carriage ride along the promenade. However, amazingly, the winter chill is putting nobody off visiting the mountains, where a completely different scene is to be found. So to conclude our visit to Austria, we will take the mighty Thunderbahn cable car high into the hills to see just where the people of Bregenz take their Sunday afternoon exercise. The cableway is 2 kilometers long and rises to 1,022 meters. It's a daunting climb by cable car, and even more challenging on foot. But here, 6 minutes away from the lake, as we lift out of the mist, is another world. The sunshine is strong, and a real, almost summer warmth awaits. The people of Bregenz have chosen climbing the Pfander as their weekend activity, just as the people of Vienna took to skates in the heart of Austria's capital. For us, This is Journey's End, and we leave you with some fine views of the Alps, high above the lakes and valleys, far below, in the chill of an Austrian winter.